Well, my friends, there is, mercifully, a break in the Republican primary schedule. After, what was it, 43 of them, we have a few weeks to survey the wreckage and maybe ask ourselves if all of the changes we've made in our political system since our founding are really helping us. Joining me now to discuss the pros and cons of the soundbite age are my two partners in thought crime, Steve Green and Scott Ott. Welcome, lads. Gentlemen, months before a single Republican has had a chance to vote for a single candidate, we've already seen the departure of Tim Pawlenty and Thad McCotter. We've seen frontrunners rise and fall and had their obituaries read. As a matter of fact, the media and the political establishment has pretty much already determined who our nominee will be without any of that messing voting and stuff. And I know I speak for a lot of conservatives when I say that people are in a state of outrage and near despair about it. Now, Scotty, you're doing a fantastic job of explaining the how and the why of our founding principles and structures with your Freedom Charter series here at PJTV. Does the Constitution call for a primary system? And if not, how did we get into this mess and what was it like in the good old days?
No, the primaries are really a mechanism set up by the political parties themselves. The Constitution doesn't even directly address political parties themselves. But the framers were concerned about faction and how you would deal with faction and one faction becoming stronger than the other. Not just the majority ruling over the minority, but the minority being able to hold hostage the majority. We've got a system now that's supposed to help the parties weed out the guys that won't be good candidates and find the best guys to face the Democrat, in this case, Democratic opponent. I'm afraid it's not exactly accomplishing that because it's really a beauty pageant for the media. And once the media have voted, the people don't get a chance to vote.
I think that's the crux of what I'm trying to get to here. Steve, let's go to you. Let's talk about the horse trading aspects of what used to be deal-making sessions rather than coronations. I'm talking about the Republican and Democratic conventions. Now, as an example, before the primaries, if Mitt Romney, let's say, needed Ron Paul, let's say needed his delegates to win the nomination, Romney would have to make a deal with Paul in order to get them. It's usually a campaign pledge or an appointment or something that got Ron Paul and Ron Paul's supporters something that they wanted. It was inclusive. Now, today it's just attack, 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 and there's nothing but wreckage instead of consensus.
Boy, I think wreckage is the right word. And, you know, like a lot of bad ideas, the strong primary system we have now, it came out of the 60s. It was about giving everybody a voice, especially for the Democrats, since their primaries weren't winner-take-all. And that's why Obama and Clinton, they were still fighting it out in June of 2008. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
And the GOP, they're going down that road now, too. They're getting rid of the winner-take-all primaries and going to this proportional system, which just drags things out. And we used to have very few primaries, very few caucuses, and usually in states where it didn't take $1 jillion to compete. And under that system, you know, Tim Pawlenty, he would still be in the game right now. McCotter might too. And President Obama, he might be facing a challenger. But under our current setup, it doesn't give anyone a voice who isn't already rich or well-connected or well-known or powerful. But you know what, the 60s were just kind of famous for giving us results opposite of what was promised.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Scotty, we usually vote pretty late out here in California in our primaries. Now, last time around, the guy I liked, Fred Thompson, had dropped out of the race before I even had a chance to vote for him. It's a little disenfranchising, isn't it? This idea that candidates can be put out of the race because of earlier primary results. Shouldn't we all get a shot to vote for who we want in the primaries?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to have a primary system, you know, I don't know what's wrong with having them all on the same day, but unfortunately some states have corrupted that process. It means that the candidates would then have to campaign nationwide, so that's why they don't do it. They need to be able to hop from state to state. But the Super Tuesday primaries cause the same problem. And when you get to states where they have open primaries, essentially this year that means that Democrats who have nobody to vote for are going to go over and foul up the Republican primary.
Swell. That's just swell. You can learn more about how we got here and what made it not only special but actually miraculous by watching Freedom's Charter with Scott Ott right here at PJTV. Now, Steve, as I said, not a single vote has been cast yet, and everyone says we're going to get Mitt Romney, so we better get in line and get used to it. Putting aside the pros and cons of Romney individually, how do you like what this nomination system has become?
I think maybe I answered that already, unless you want me to just come right out and say it sucks. But let me give you a little reminder. Everybody knows, everybody knows it's going to be Romney. On InTrade right now, I think it's Romney 4-1 over Rick Perry, his closest competitor. But think back to this time 4 years ago. Everybody knew back in fall of '07 that the Democrats were going to nominate Hillary Clinton and the Republicans were all set on Rudy Giuliani. So you tell me it's going to be Mitt, but you're also complaining that nobody's gotten a vote yet. Well, let's see the results of a few votes before we decide we just know who the nominee's going to be.
Yeah, I'd be in the mood for that kind of surprise myself. Steve Green hosts the Weekend Blogs and Hair of the Dog segments right here at PJTV. Oh, my friends, I'll just leave you with this simple thought. Our primary system today is structured so that runners in a race are eliminated before the actual race even begins. So ask yourself this question: how different would sporting events like football and baseball and hockey and all the rest look if the game ended the instant the first team scored the first point? How would a horse race or NASCAR look if you eliminated 10 or 20% of the racers at the first turn and kept doing it at every turn? No comebacks, no rallies, no upsets. In fact, this year, it seems that the guy with the best qualifying time, without racing against anybody but the stopwatch, has been named the winner of the Indy 500 before they even start their engines. For PJTV, I'm Bill Whittle.